back to KSG. Welcome back to some long-term videos, or long-format videos, I guess we should say.
We're back. Did you think we ran away and disappeared?
Kind of did for a minute. We had a lot of setup to do. We've been relocated for about a year now. And that's kind of led us to where we're going to be for today's section of video. Oh, hello, there's Mabel. I guess she wants to be the star. Off camera is Chaplin, and yeah, the dojis. But this relocation's kind of led us to what we're going to focus on for the next series of videos. I guess you can say like a long-awaited and much overdue season 2, I guess.
Much overdue.
Yes, because we have had to redo about everything. You look like you are talking as Mabel on there. So there's been a few new considerations that we've had to add.
Change things up a little bit.
Absolutely, because our situation has changed.
With changing to a new area, a new house, sometimes you have to adapt. Sometimes you have to rethink your thinking.
Which is actually a good thing, because we're recording this on Labor Day, actually, and you know that's the first Monday of September, and we all know that September is National Preparedness Month, as our feeds and everything on social media has been telling us.
Right. But sometimes you get lost. I think in preparedness there can be so much to it that you don't know where to start, or if you have started and you've kind of paused like we have, you don't know where to start off again to revamp.
Or if your situation's changed. You know, maybe in our case, the number of people in our house has gotten a lot smaller.
Yes.
Now that's not the case for everybody though. Some people are bringing in, new babies, or they've got old babies coming back to the nest, because it's a crazy time out there.
Old babies.
Hey, they're always your babies. They can be 40 and they're still your babies.
That is true.
But the point is, like, your family size can change. It might be friends, it might be a parent coming back with you, or adult kids coming back in.
Right.
And it really doesn't matter, because if you're going to prepare, you have to prepare for everybody.
And that's a good point, because as we've rethought everything and looked at where we are and who we're around, because now we don't have as many neighbors, but they're more like-minded neighbors. So now we've kind of bounced things off them as well as what they would like and how they look at the situation.
And they're a wealth of knowledge, honestly, especially on local terrain, which leads us to an area study, which
we still haven't done.
Well, we did one prior to moving out, and I was actually thinking about that quite a bit as we're going forward, and I like to call that our gross area study.
Why? Is it ugly?
Well, it kind of was, really, because it was all done off, and we all know we can believe 100% of everything on the internet. It's 100% true because it's on the internet. But we moved at kind of the height of the pandemic for work and for an opportunity.
Right.
So we had to rely on that quite a bit, and we did a very gross, coarse area study, and I'd love to tell you that there's some super secret squirrel website out there you could use that'll tell you everything, and there's not. We used we used Google Maps in satellite view, and that gave us a good idea of the physical terrain of an area.
Well, and let me give you a little background, y'all. The reason he's talking about this is because we moved down here sight unseen. We were not in a situation where we could come and look at the area. We kind of took a map, looked at it topographically, drew a circle, and went, okay, this area.
Yeah, and that there's a lot of considerations that go into that. For us, we wanted a close enough proximity to manufactured resources, I guess is a way to put it, like town, but we didn't want to be right in town, and certainly not a big town.
Right.
We were probably urban to suburban when we started this channel, and we're definitely rural now. I would love to tell you that this lovely view puts us out in the middle of nowhere. We have neighbors that we can walk right over to in a matter of minutes. Yeah. But we do extend probably a solid mile behind us to the next house. Yeah. Maybe more. We are rural enough.
Yes.
The property we're on is divided in an interesting way. We have our property proper is approximately 3/4 of an acre, counting what the house sits on, but we were able to buy the surrounding acreage too. So that's going to change the direction of the KSG channel a little bit, because we're going to show you not only what you can do on a 3/4 acre plot, because I think that's about average for a larger suburban or entry level rural plot.
Yeah.
we're going to work mainly at that because we're blessed with amazing neighbors here.
Yep.
And you'll probably see them making cameos from time to time. We have cattle on our excess property, which we didn't purchase it out of need to make a farm, although a long-term goal.
Right.
Definitely. But it was up for sale. It wasn't the opportune time, but it was the right move.
Right.
So that led us to the subject of today's video, where we're starting over on our preps. Mm-hmm. Our situation is vastly different, in many ways better, but in some ways we've used our preps for exactly what they're for. We had kind of a dry spell moving out. We had a lot to set up. We had repairs to make. This is not a brand new house by any means.
No.
We were fortunate enough not to have any vehicle issues moving from the old place to the new place, but there's been vehicle maintenance that had to be taken care of in between. That's still ongoing, and that should be part of your preps. So we were able to free up cash by living off of some of our preps that you saw in our store up some canned goods and that. Mm-hmm. And we're replenishing those now.
Right. Which is trickier because, of course, with the economy, the prices have gone up from what it was. So you have to be a little more frugal and thoughtful about where you spend that money.
Well, exactly. It used to be very simple, and it was no big secret that we are fans of Aldi's. But even Aldi's has suffered a little bit of that inflation because, right, quite frankly, it costs more to grow a bean.
Right, right.
So it costs more to buy a bean.
So I think with that, sometimes that puts us in the mindset that we have to kind of think outside the box. I mean, here at our other home, we had a couple pots that we could plant in. And we had been planning on doing a couple raised beds. Well, we found out we were moving. We brought them with us. So
we have these small raised beds here.
And I was able to
try
my hand at gardening.
And we will do a review on these. They're from Northern Tool, which is very similar to a Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
They're not expensive by any means. We're still a small channel. We're not sponsored. Yeah. The stuff that we talk about it's stuff that we buy and we actually use.
Right.
So these came from Northern Tool, and I want to give them a winner being put in before we say anything on them.
Right.
We can show them, but before we give any kind of honest, buy this, don't buy it, let's get a winner, because the metal that they're made out of is good, but the hardware was a tad lacking.
It was okay.
Well, some of the screws had no threads. Problem.
Yeah.
Not that you can't reach in your bolt bucket and find something.
Well, and we're still working on those because we were still learning of where we could get soil. And so we went and bought soil, but then our next door neighbor gave us the idea, the guy with the cows, of using the manure.
So I just got a sidetrack here. I'm going to squirrel now. This is a duh moment. Manure is the oldest fertilizer that there is. We have cattle all around us, and we're going to town to buy soil.
Go figure, right? We were not thinking outside of our box. We were very inside our box, weren't we?
We're still like Tractor Supply is a great place to hit up.
Well, because that's what we're used to. So it's adjusting that mindset again, which we're slowly working on.
Exactly, and that takes us to what we're doing now. So this next series of videos that we're going to do, it's it's called a build along. We're at that point where we're now taking stock of our situation, and we're not going to film this, but we're literally going to go count how many cans of beans we have and how many cans of Spam and things like that.
Have fun with that.
Yeah. Oh, it's a joy. That's date night.
Oh, nuh-uh. You could do that one on your own.
It's on date night by myself.
Uh-huh.
That's a whole other video.
Not for this channel.
OnlyFans. So we're taking some stock of what we have. We're looking at how our food storage is going to be set up, ways to improve it, and we're going to go over some of that. And I think, this is still rough in my head. I'm putting this out for you guys real honest. Right. Jocelyn and I bounce this off each other a lot. I think what we're looking at is plan A and plan B, maybe plan C. What can you do? How does this look? How does that look? And which one's best for us?
But that's a good thing because that's thinking outside that box. Sometimes the first plan doesn't work. So you have to be able to kind of roll with the punches, you know?
Well, exactly. And this house is not laid out like our last house.
Mm-mm. No basement, people. No basement.
No basement, but a much larger garage. Mm-hmm. That leads to its own things, though. Self-sufficient. Now, we haven't discussed much about maintenance on here for vehicles.
Right.
We do a lot of our own maintenance with a minimal number of swear words. Which I have I have, frankly, done my first set of brakes without getting a brake warning light.
True.
That's pretty cool on anti-lock brakes. Not hard to do, but anyway, the point of that is sometimes the garage is actually used to work on stuff, so you have to be careful of how and what you store in there. Mm-hmm. And using it looks a little different too.
Right.
I ground some metal in there.
Yep.
So when you grab a can from the stock, you probably best wash that lid or you're going to need tetanus shots, you know. It's not a good thing. Metal shards
I'm up to
fly.
date on my tetanus. I'm okay. You might have to go get yours.
There we go. Guess it's just me.
Love you, honey. Have fun.
But, food storage is one thing, and water storage is another. Now, we had planned on making water storage and gathering the very first video, the first in our series here. We are not doing that because we were in a year of, a lot of rainfall. The locals have told us it was pretty extreme. And a couple of our video shoot days were actually canceled because a tree decided to go horizontal instead of vertical. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have real high winds or nothing.
No.
The ground was just that wet.
Yeah.
So to do a water storage and gathering video, then no, that's like running a garden hose. There was so much. We're going to try to do it on an average year and show some different methodologies and some out-of-the-box stuff too. So... But, maybe with this being National Preparedness Month, a really good place to start would be go walk your stores now. Whether you got a couple days in the pantry or you got that month or two put up, go have a look and see where you're really at. We talked about changing family sizes. There's also changing in diet. I mean, at one point, I had a lot of raviolis and SpaghettiOs and stuff because that was quick comfort food for young kids.
Right.
There comes a point when you look in your pantry and you see 16 cans of ravioli and the kids haven't eaten it for 6 months.
Right.
It might be time to go ahead and cycle that out and cycle in what they are eating.
Or health changes. I mean, I've had a recent diagnosis that I have to be a little bit more careful with certain processed foods I eat.
Well, and we're trying to move a little bit away from processed foods, which will be another video that we're going to show. Because we're going to try to do a lot more in season and find out what we can do in season and save the process for off season only.
Right.
So we've got a few things coming down the pipe with these changes that we hope you'll stick around for. But, not the least of which, right now though, I think we need to focus on taking stock, and that's where we're at with the channel. So walk those stores, take a good inventory, and think about this is at some point, I think prepping moves from I need 3 days in this bag just in case the power's out, I got little kids, I got to be able to get to a hotel, they probably won't have diapers and stuff there, so that's what your bag looks like. And later on, it's maybe some books and board games for them because if you have to go to that hotel or that relative's house, you don't want to be bored. And as they get a little older, you go to a couple of MREs and a change of clothes and stuff like that. Sort of a glorified camping bag.
And now we're to the point that we could just actually walk out the back door, throw up a hammock, and we're good to go. Absolutely.
And with that being said, we've also moved further away from prepping because once those bags were set, we moved on to, if it's just no services, how long can we stay in the house? And through a lens looking at area, politics, probability of things, we decided that a month in the house where we were before is enough. Because if things weren't better in about a month, we were in a population dense area. It was going to go from ugly to really ugly really quick.
Right.
We got a longer term out here, so our preps have to look a little different. There's going to be a little less focus on the grab and go bag.
Right.
And a little more on bugging in or bunkering in, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, we're saddled with these terms. That's what people look at it as. So we're going to go ahead and use it, and we're going to use it the right way, though. So a bug in is probably a more likely plan now than a bug out. That doesn't mean we're ignoring having to bug out.
No, not at all.
I mean, floods. We had record cold last year for where we're at. And it was significantly cold. It was like a northern Indiana winter all the way down here in southern Kentucky.
A light northern Indiana winter.
Well, for about a week it was normal, just without the snow. But the temperatures were definitely there. We were -20, -25. Now it gets colder up north.
Yeah.
But that's very cold when you have riser pipes coming up 3 feet out of the ground that your water goes into.
There were a lot of people that broke
frozen pipes are
yeah.
frozen pipes.
Yeah.
We just, we knew to cover the faucets and things like that, and wrap towels around the pipes. That things that a lot of people didn't think of, not because they're uneducated or anything, but because that weather just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So we've already experienced a couple times when having a few things makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing we can do while we're doing this assessment is we can kind of access.
What?
We can assess our own readiness. And there's areas.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jocelyn brought up a good point. Our area study is horrible.
It's not. It's in his head. That's a scary place to be, honey.
Yeah, the area study. We know what roads to go to get out. And we know which way is north and which way is south. That's kind of it.
Me more than you.
We won't go into that. You had a lot more time.
Gotta pick on it though.
Absolutely, it just wouldn't be a KSG video without that.
True.
So something we can do is look at your area study. Are you up to date? I mean, over the next year, the rough plan for this channel is to take somebody that says, "Oh my gosh, things are kind of off. I want to be a little more ready," and get them ready by the time we're casting ballots in the presidential election a year and 2 months from now.
Well, because we know that big event, that presidential election, can make a big difference on everything.
Oh, yeah, and it's just, every presidential election seems to have some things that go screwy. Mm. Fuel prices go crazy. Mm-hmm. Certain implements of peace, I guess we'll say, can become scarce, expensive, or both. There's a lot of things that can happen, and that typically do happen. Things like your mountain house and freeze-dried and prepared foods go up. Mm-hmm. In general, grocery store prices fluctuate. The closer we get to casting the ballot, a lot of the essentials, food, fuel, and things like that tend to go down so that the person in power or the party in power has a better chance at being reelected. We know this, and if we're going to tell the truth and be ready, I don't care who's in power when that stuff goes down. I'm stocking up on it because I'm going to use it anyway.
Right.
So let's get our area studies up to date. Let's figure out what our local political landscape looks like. Let's figure out what's likely to change. If you got a lot of people up for election, change is imminent. That might change how you prep. Something else that goes by the wayside a lot is a comms plan. We had been working with comms, you saw from the shorts, working with the radios. We didn't abandon that. We just don't live close enough to a repeater to show you guys anything of real value with the repeater right now. So we're going to do an in-the-field video later when the appropriate time comes, and we're going to use one of the local repeaters on GMRS radio. So another prep you can do, if you don't have any kind of comms outside of your computer and your cell phone, maybe it's time to start focusing on how you can get a comms plan together on infrastructure you own. Mm-hmm. We like GMRS.
Right. Well, because that's what we need to do. I mean, you think about it, where we were before, it was pretty flat. Now we have a lot more rolling hills, we have a lot more trees that get in the way, so again, it's rethinking things.
That's right, and that might mean having to buy some gear. I mean, we're probably have to buy a base station and a large antenna if we want to hit that repeater.
Right.
Now, if you're in that northwest Indiana, where we were, like about 40 miles south of Chicago, I could hit repeaters 30, 40, 50 miles away off of a $29 UV5G. And I know we're going to get some flack on that. A UV5G is the same as a UV5R, but it's legal for GMRS. That's what the G means. So please don't tell me that it's an illegal radio. It is legal. Please look it up. We can post a link to it. Anyway, that said, we were able to have communications sometimes going over 100 miles away off using the repeaters. And there were a plethora of repeaters there.
Yeah.
There's fewer public repeaters here in Kentucky because guess what? We have hills, trees, and curves. We do have a local repeater that's actually closer than most that we had.
Right.
We had 3 that were closer out of the 5 or 6 we hit normally up north. So this one's about 20 miles, I think, 20, 25 miles away, and we can't hit it from here. We can get to the top of the hill and maybe ding it. I've tried a couple of different antennas, and it's not going to work on a handheld.
Right.
Not on an HT unit. But anyway, that's the subject of another video. But a prep you can do now, you can go to the FCC's website and look at getting your GMRS license. This is not like a ham license. This is more like a fishing license. You buy it once for $35, and it covers your entire family for 10 years. Be legal, folks. Having that call sign will get you on where you can find your local repeaters, and we will show you how to program those. But we can still use those in what they call simplex mode here around our property and with our neighbors.
Right.
And that's powerful. So, it's infrastructure that we own instead of relying on other people's stuff.
Right.
All right, so we're back. We have a cat that's decided to go exploring. It's one of the new kittens, so might be another pause coming up. But where were we? I think we were talking about taking stock, right? We were talking about the comms plan. So yeah, it's good to have one, for sure. And they do get very detailed. We have an older video on how to set up your comms plan. Yeah. It's still worth looking at, and we'll be getting a little more into how we set ours up in a future video as part of this series that we're going to do.
I think it goes into also how prepared you are for if you lose services. People are so dependent upon their phones that we don't even think about it. We call someone, we connect with someone from a couple states away.
Oh yeah, across the world.
Yeah.
But we're so dependent on other people's stuff.
Right.
Because it's there and it works.
Right. Which is not a bad thing, but what if it's not there?
And you should absolutely use it while you have it.
Right.
And speaking of that, when the lines do get jammed, I mean, major sporting events at the end or when an upset happens, if you're in the area of that stadium, you might not be able to get a call through. Text will still often go through, and there's also satellite that you can...
right.
I think the iPhone 14 actually has an SOS satellite feature built into it.
That's kind of cool.
And it kind of is cool. It just, depending on your flavor of phone, whatever.
Right.
They could be there, but we can utilize other people's stuff.
Right.
You see, when you own the infrastructure, it becomes very expensive. We looked at putting up a repeater. We're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000, I think we figured out by the time we get a functioning entry-level professional repeater up.
Right.
We can make something ad hoc for less, but it's not anything that you'll be able to leave up. But I'm glad you said no services, because that actually is a nice segue into the next area we can look at. A lot of people, when they're taking stock, they don't stop and think, what would happen if all of my services were shut off for 72 hours? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's hurricanes coming in, or that hurricanes have been in.
Right.
I'm trying not to touch the news because I think that's been overdone. But weather events do happen, and they happen regularly. And if you happen to be in the way of something like a hurricane, that's no services.
Or the fires that have happened.
That's right. There's absolutely no services.
Nope.
You have no water flowing through the pipes. You have no electricity. You have no communications. Now, in the case of those fires, your only option is to evacuate.
Right.
And without prior warning, prayers to everybody in Hawaii.
Right.
That's terrible. Way overdone on this platform. We're not going to go any further than that on that. But one thing you can do is you can try shutting your own services off. I mean, it's very simple to just do not use.
Right.
If you want to go one step further, you could shut off the breakers to your convenience appliances.
Right.
I don't think you should go shut off your freezers.
No. Please
Don't waste money.
Right.
But shut off like your lights, and then don't use any of that frozen food.
Right.
And see how you can do on what you have stored up.
Right.
Now, that's going to be an extreme test, because in reality, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start using what's in the refrigerator.
Right.
And then I'm moving to what's frozen before I ever hit my shelf stable.
Right.
Use what you have first.
Which you can. I mean, you can use that freezer as long as you don't open it too much. Get out a lot at once.
Well, exactly.
You're good
I think
and it stays.
If we lost power, the first thing, I'm assuming that it's going to be hot out.
Right.
If it's cold, it's very easy. Put the stuff outside in the cooler.
Right.
But
well, it was easier up north. Now it's a little bit harder.
Yep. And changing an environment.
Mm-hmm.
But, in a situation like that, you can assume that you're going to go through what's in the refrigerator first, then the freezer, then your stores.
Right.
But Well, that might sound like, oh, I'm on Easy Street. What are you going to do with a frozen pizza if you don't have any way to turn on an oven of any sort or even a burner?
Right.
Are you going to campfire cook it? I mean, it's good when you can.
Right.
And if you're bugged in, these preps can be as easy as make sure your propane's topped off, or you have an extra bag of charcoal for your grill.
Right.
It's that easy. Now, if you're in a situation where you can't have that smell coming from on the outside,
right.
Well, it might be a little different.
Right.
But you can test your generators, whether that's a gasoline generator or like one of the new solar generators. Lots of cool things there. If you happen to have one, we tend to rely on firing off wood fire for anything else because we have an abundance of wood put up.
Well, not in abundance, but we have a tree that fell down.
Well, that sort of counts as wood put up. But we have enough wood to get through a 72-hour period, conservatively using it. And we also have propane, so we keep our tanks relatively topped off. But if something were to happen right now, our main tank is maybe a bit low. So if you're
I don't know. Have we checked it? That's probably not good.
Because we're actually scheduled for our refill coming up pretty soon here.
True.
Because we pre-bought our refills and we bought them at a certain time.
True. But you should still keep track of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, yes, we had it filled, but then we used it some more. So where does it sit? How long could we really last on that?
Yeah, we really don't know. But what we do know is we have a 3/4 full propane tank on our grill now, and the other one ready to go get exchanged for a full one.
But we haven't done it yet.
That's right. And this is things that you got to take stock, and you got to do these things. And the other thing is we're fortunate because we use our grill at least a couple times a week.
Right.
So we know it actually works. That's something else that you'll want to do. And looking at this, right now, propane is not expensive.
Right.
It's an excellent time to get a couple extra canisters or to get that refill. So, definitely, what would you do after 72 hours? Can you keep going? It's a good thing to check. And then one that, well, we were doing really good on it, and we kind of fell off the long holiday, and that's your fitness level. Situations change.
We're still probably better than the average Joe, I think.
Well, I don't know. I think I'm getting picked on here. What do you guys think? Tell us in the comments. Am I getting picked on? Am I being abused?
Hey.
Might be.
Oh, I've been abused.
So, the fitness level, we were almost daily in the gym.
Yeah.
And that was maybe a bit excessive, and it's part of the reason we haven't been on here, too.
Right. But
you have to make sure that fitness level stays up. None of us are getting any younger. And I'm not telling you to go out and run a 5K or 10K or a marathon.
I couldn't do it.
But what you might want to do is make sure that you can get on a treadmill or an elliptical or even a stationary bike and hit some... You can set these things up for hills and sprints and everything else. So you can go to a comfortable place and you can watch our videos or others like it while you work out for that half hour or 45 minutes.
But why work it so hard? You don't have to have a membership. We have dogs.
That's right. You can walk your dogs.
We have hills around here. We actually... Remember when we first moved here and walked the dogs?
Oh, yeah. We couldn't get up the hill.
Gosh, that was painful. We
were in the gym daily. And we were in the gym daily before we got here.
We were.
Area study, folks. The terrain changed.
It did. So we couldn't walk up the hill without... Did we stop twice or 3 times?
Twice. 3 times with the new dog, because even the dog didn't like the hill.
Right. But now, we've been here a year, we can do those hills no problem. We can do a couple hills and be fine.
Yep, and you're still working it. Mm-hmm. But what the point here is, like, you want to make sure that you can go at least to town. Now, for us, that means being able to cover 5 miles, because we are 5 miles outside of town.
Right.
So if we want to get something, we're somewhere between 3.5 and 5 miles before we get to that something.
But remember, you got to get back too.
That's right. But a lot of times getting there, you can refuel yourself. You can get what it is you need and then make it back.
Depending what happens. There might be that time.
Well, and this is actually, you are the queen of segues. Because something else that we want to start doing is we want to delve once a month or so into a scenario. Mm-hmm. And just kind of war game it out, board game it out, tabletop it, whatever you want to call it. But What would you do? What plans would work? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And this is actually part of your area study.
Right. Well, I think it's more than an area study, though, because I think it's working more into what are my words aren't getting there. But it's more than an area study. It's actually trying out things. I mean, an area study is learning it.
Yep.
But
and then
putting
we're testing
it into action is a different story.
Well, it's like anything else. It's like, take bowling, because we're any
bowling.
Yeah, bowling. Anything where you got to do something. You have to develop muscle memory on something, and your emergency plan should be the same.
True.
Do you remember? And I don't even think schools do this anymore. But do you remember fire drills in the school?
Oh yeah.
And there were races to see which class could get. I mean, it had to be the whole class in order.
Yep.
Could get out
and
where they're supposed to be. That's right. That's in order. You couldn't run nobody over.
Mm-mm.
But by the time, you ever notice you went in as a kindergartner and it was chaos?
Yeah.
And I remember that from watching the kindergartners. I obviously don't remember kindergarten.
Right.
But
because you're old.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
So what you would do is, by the time you're in 8th grade and getting ready to move on to high school, it was muscle memory, and you were actually helping herd the kindergartners. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend any kindergartners, but you're actually kind of trying to help herd the kindergartners in the right direction and keep them together.
Right.
And you would clear that school fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds dumb. It sounds like watching Kindergarten Cop, and it kind of is. But the fact of the matter is that even in children, that muscle memory developed.
Right.
And you got better and better, and you elevated your status at it as you practice it. Mm-hmm. So doing these, even a tabletop scenario, it flexes those thinking muscles, and you get muscle memory in the brain. Because when something really happens, you're making decisions now. You don't have time to plus and minus it.
And I like how you said you're flexing the muscle memory. It's because getting those thoughts, we are so focused as a culture, as humanity, of thinking things one way and wearing those blinders. I think when we lay it out on the table and look at all those angles, we take off those blinders some and get more availability and more access in our minds of what the possibilities may be, because in a situation, one thing might not happen. And what are you going to do? Are you going to freak out and go crazy and run around in circles?
Or are you going to sit there and wait for that trigger?
Right. But you'll have something in your mind to be able to go, okay, I can't do this, but I have this option available to me.
Mm-hmm. And this, queen of segues, wow.
I didn't do that on purpose. You know that. It's just me talking.
And that's what I love about this format. And guys, when we're not demonstrating something, this is going to be our format. And somewhere down in the description of this is going to be the link to a podcast version of this too. Because a lot of this, you don't have to watch us. I mean, I know we have a beautiful view here and we're so pretty to look at.
We don't want to look at your ugly mug.
I just said I was pretty. Come on now.
I'm the pretty one.
Okay, we'll go with that. Love you, honey. But, we're going to put this in a podcast format because, you might, quite honestly, you might have better mental health by listening rather than watching.
Yeah, we're kind of boring to watch.
Except when the dog jumps up. That's kind of
cool.
Cool.
And she's getting ready to again.
Oh, yes. Well, Mabel is a star.
Yes.
But,
She's a star.
But, wow, that just took me completely off. So, talking about our tabletop exercises, one major component of that should be a go bag. Mm-hmm. Now, a few years back, these things were all the rage, your bug out bag and go bags. And if we go a few years further back than that, this was like the fantasy of everybody. It was, I'm going to walk away when the world goes down the toilet. We're just going to walk away and we're going to be able to be okay. And we even had some very good instructors. And these things are still out there if you want to look at them. We have our own little go bag.
Didn't we do a video on one too?
We did.
Okay.
We have a video on that if you want a real basic one. There's literally books written on this subject that you can pick up and read. Don't overthink it, guys. Keep it reasonable and make it go. But there is tons of information. Absolutely. Keep it super simple. But do you even have one? You're going to want one, at least a go bag of some sort.
I think it's funny that our kids had theirs, and when they moved north, they left theirs here.
And now they're trying to put one back together.
Right. Without a bag.
Well, and they're going back to the school bag thing, which is better than nothing.
Right.
But to me, and this is going to break it down. We're going to talk about this later. A lot of times your go bag is your car bag for every day. I mean, let's really think about it. If you're carpooling or something like that, you have your I might need it's all in a bag of some sort and take it. Ladies, that could be a purse. Guys, it might be a satchel, it might be a backpack, whatever. But you've got that, and you've got your basic essentials in there. And there was a whole carryology website and EDC on this. There are people that really focus in on this.
Carryology, is that a thing?
It was a website.
Really?
Oh, they talked about
one. Darn.
Oh, they talked about different. They got all the way down to pocket organizers on there. These guys get real granular, and depending where you're at, it could be very useful.
I think it'd put me to sleep.
Well, it depends. Sometimes it's fun just to play with gear.
For you.
You like some of that though when we're out and about.
I like the more mobile gear.
But there's more to gear than just
that is
wireless hole punchers.
Yep.
Got to avoid certain words here. So you're going to want some sort of go bags though, because in all honesty, if you've got to hurry up and go, and it doesn't have to be, Russia dropping the bomb or loss of society. It could be, oh my gosh, little Billy twisted his ankle. We got to get to the hospital.
But I think that depends on your skill level too. I mean, we haven't been doing many videos, but since we've moved here, we've learned a lot about the natural plants too. So we could get up and go without much in our go bag.
And knowledge doesn't cost. Knowledge has no cost to it and has no weight penalty.
Yeah.
But you are also subject to the environment and what you can use.
True.
Because if we look at things like we had that train derailment with the PVC dump in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
If that happens, all the knowledge of plant life in the world is doing you absolutely zero good.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be ready, that bag is there. And to kind of go back to little Billy twisted his ankle, an event occurred that we have to seek outside help, and we're leaving the house in a hurry. So if you grab that go bag the way we have it set up, what's in there, at least in digital form? Copies of your insurance and birth certificates and IDs and things like that. So when you grab that bag by the door, whatever you need at the hospital is right there, and you can hang with little Billy while he's getting his ankle set, instead of digging through and trying to find things and making frantic phone calls to get policy numbers and things.
Right.
It's in your bag and right there. There's a very practical side to this. And it's really just like what we found. We've used a lot of things out of our go bags, our carry bags, and our car bags over and over again. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's there for. It's not there to put up and put behind a piece of glass that says break in case the zombies come.
Right. But you made a good point. Because we've been using our bags and used it occasionally. But what you just mentioned, our insurance cards are not updated.
No, they're not. And that's coming. Beautiful segue yet again.
Shoot, sorry. You did that to yourself. You started that one.
We did. But this beautiful segue is coming up. November 7th, the clocks change. We move from summer mindset to winter mindset. For some reason, changing the clocks, we don't think about fall or spring, which are the two nicest seasons, really. But
I think about them all the time. What are you talking about?
But we're going to change our bags out to our winter loadouts, whatever that looks like for you. It's no matter where you're at in the world, it's going to be different in January than it is in August.
Not for me much down here. Well, remember, I got picked on for walking the dog in a t-shirt when everyone else was wearing coats.
We literally had between our hottest day in August and our coldest day in February, we literally had a 130-degree swing. If that's not a difference, I don't know what planet you're from.
True.
That's like night and day in Venus.
Cool.
But it's getting time to go through those bags, and that's where you want to make sure, are your digital records updated? Mm-hmm. They sit on a thumb drive and you don't really look at it.
But you lose electric. How is that digital record going to do any good?
Because you're not always going to lose electric in every single situation. Mm-hmm. If you're in a situation where somebody wants to bill your insurance, I'm going to make a wild guess and say that there's still communications and electricity. 9 years into the Mad Max scenario, nobody cares who your insurance was. You haven't been to work in 9 years. You don't have it.
True.
So it doesn't matter that you can't read it off the thumb drive. See, a lot of times we get stuck on, I call it disaster baiting. We look at the absolute worst case scenario. Years ago, when Walking Dead was the greatest show on TV, everybody assumed that after the zombies came, there'd be nothing. So that's your... Heck, I think it was FEMA had zombie plans. The idea being that if everything goes to absolute garbage, this is what you're left with. So there we have it. We had that plan, and everybody kind of forgot the everyday.
Right.
I've always been of the mindset that most of what you're going to use out of your go bag is going to be things of convenience.
Yeah.
And things of comfort. Having an extra copy of your contacts in case your phone takes a swim in an unfortunate kayaking accident on Trumbull Creek.
And that's not even a disaster.
But having those backed up was sure nice, and having it backed up to the cloud was nice. A backup is a backup.
Right.
But having these things, if you need them, there's going to be a way to get them. Now, there is a caveat to this. A lot of places don't want you to put that thumb drive in their computer. They want you to show it to them.
Right.
You can get Fire tablets for $59, and guess what, folks? If you're an iPhone or Apple fan, I'm sorry, but Android's got something that you're going to want, and that's the ability to read a USB drive. You can show people this, and there's not much weight penalty. As a matter of fact, you can put a lot of knowledge on one of those cards as well, those memory cards or even the memory of the device, and you can carry a significant amount of knowledge with a long battery life and easily rechargeable with you. Very useful.
Right.
Well, we can go over that in another one, another video. We don't want to get too deep because, we're hitting probably the longest video we've made yet. And I said this is going podcast form, so this is kind of new to us.
Right.
KSG is going to be both videos and podcasts. Like I said, there'll be a link to whatever we come up with the name of, because I didn't do my pre-work on this, so I don't have it.
What a slacker.
Exactly. It's Labor Day. So you've been hinting around quite a bit about personal protection devices.
Me? Hint? Never.
So what do you have for personal protection? Do you have a martial art? Have you been trained in what to do? There's training courses.
I took one. It came in handy.
Because even on a plane, things that you can do with your hands and feet stick with you.
And knowing what areas you can push on a person to make them react.
Any martial art. And I'm going to do a shameless plug for a martial art that I have seen. I have gone through an introductory 1 to 2 hours of this is kind of how it works years ago. And that's jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is the one martial art that over-delivers and under-promises. The idea behind jiu-jitsu is that a little person can defend against a much bigger person successfully by leveraging their own body and understanding angles and some physics. It works, and it only takes months to master. A lot of what you learned from a traditional karate instructor was actually jiu-jitsu.
But at the same time, I took that how long ago?
It's probably time for a refresher.
I only remember a couple things. I don't know that I could use it that well, and not that well, but effectively. And
that's where practice, and that's something that we haven't practiced.
Right.
So one thing that
I wouldn't want to kick your butt.
Well, I wouldn't want you to. One thing that we should probably put out there is that we've talked about fitness and we talked about a martial art. Martial arts is a form of fitness, and it's a great way. If you don't have a gym membership, maybe get yourself into a once-a-week martial arts class. You get a lot of benefit out of this. You're going to be moving, you're going to be working out, you're going to be learning defense, and you got a group of people to hold you accountable. And they're probably like-minded people. Tribe is everything.
Right.
Tribe, family, groups, barking dogs. The cattle are coming to visit.
Apparently.
So other personal protection devices, though, tasers, pepper spray, sticks, a walking stick. I forgot all the names of the little, for a while there were tactical pens and Kubotans and all sorts of stuff. Whatever your slice of personal protection is, I'd have it. For me, in my personal opinion, some sort of quick self-defense class. You don't have to be a master. You don't have to hold a belt. But take one and take it regularly. Just how to fend off an attacker. Guys, you can do this too. Don't suffer from male pattern stubbornness. Take this.
I don't think it's even taking it regularly.
Stay brushed up on it.
There it is.
Which would, for most people, would be going back to the class on a regular basis, every few months or so. Keep
Yeah, but
fresh.
that can cost money.
It can, but a lot of places do these for free or for a very nominal charge. A better method would be to join a martial arts class, but not everybody has that time commitment.
Right.
Either way, you can make an excuse or you can go out and do it. I would say go out and do it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And we're good at making excuses. We're not sitting here telling you we're perfect.
Look, we've put this off for a year.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then there's more traditional personal defense. This is the second type I would recommend, and that's a type of personal defense that's going to put distance between you and an attacker. Mm-hmm. If you are out hiking or walking, a good hiking stick will do this. It'll put distance between you and somebody, but you'd have to train with it.
Right.
A level up from that would be a taser or pepper spray. Again, some places might require you to take a class to use those. And if you're using pepper spray, find a trainer for it, because when you pepper spray your opponent, you pepper spray yourself too.
Right.
You're going to want to experience this one way or another. Mabel is back.
Mabel's the talking head again.
And then there's wireless paper punchers. And why do we have those? Because people suck at throwing bullets. But if you have it, you have to practice with it. You got to practice regularly with it, and there are a myriad of ways you can do that. We will dedicate a video to that at some point. The feeding of a wireless hole punch can get expensive.
It can.
So maximizing the food that you're going to feed it becomes important, and there are certain drills that will help you gain skill and use the minimum amount of that food.
Or making your own food.
Making your own food is an option as well, and that's something in the long-term planning when you switch from stockpiling to production.
Right.
And there's a lot to be talked about in there, and I would put personal protection devices like that in the same category as politics, religion, and pizza. You're not going to find a whole lot of people that agree on what's best.
Right. Everyone has their own flavor.
Exactly.
And it's not a bad thing.
So guys, we're making the longest video we've ever made, and this is the launch of the KSG podcast as well. So thanks for bearing with us.
Talking heads or talking Mabel heads.
Yeah, well, the cutest talking head. Maybe we should have the dogs up here and we could talk in the background.
Oh, there we go.
That would be fun. But if you're new to the channel, this is a brand new format for us. If you're somebody that's been with us, still a brand new format, but check the link below. We're going to have a name, hopefully a catchy one for the podcast. And these talking head videos are probably better done as a podcast. We can be talking in your ear when you're mowing the lawn or something like that.
Right. Or
on that long, boring drive to work.
And tell us what you think about our new format.
Absolutely. And let us know where you want to go, where you're at in your readiness journey. Mm-hmm. And, if you've experienced a setback and you're restarting, this is the perfect time to do it. With September being preparedness month, though, guys, go back. Let's take a stock of where we're at. Let's get those inventories done. Let's start getting ready to move into the fall season.
Be real with yourself.
And stay safe out there.